Well, this November, Portlanders will decide if we want to drastically change the city's form of government. The changes proposed by the Charter Commission would increase the number of city commissioners from 5 to 12, elected by district. A city manager would oversee bureaus instead of the commissioners as it is now. And there would be a new way to elect those commissioners, ranked choice voting. But even some who see the current commission form of government as dysfunctional are not all in with this proposal. That includes Andrew Hone, CEO of the Portland Business Alliance, the largest business advocacy organization in the region, which serves as Portland's Chamber of Commerce with 1,900 members. Hone filed a lawsuit against the city auditor and city elections officer to stop this proposal from getting to the voters in its current form. Andrew Hone, thanks for being on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thanks so much for having me, Ken. It's good to see you.
Well, what's your problem with this Charter Commission proposal?
Well, what we have filed a suit for is simply about how this is going to be presented to voters. I think overall there is uniform agreement that the way that we, as a community, as a government, is not acceptable. It's not working. The commission form of government is not effectively delivering the basic services that we as residents expect, and we fully support the need to reform that government. What we think is at issue here is that the proposals included in this ballot measure are really too many crammed into one. And we'd like to see the courts break up the actual ballot initiative so that Portlanders can make informed decisions and be trusted to choose the elements of charter reform that they like and maybe those that they don't like. And we think that this provides the best opportunity for reforms to move forward. And so what we're asking the courts to do is to say that the elements of reform that are dedicated to form and function of government and getting rid of the commission system be in one choice, and the way that we elect individuals to be in another choice or several choices. And so that's the purpose of our challenge. And if we prevail, Portlanders will have more choices and more votes on charter reform in November.
So your basic argument is that this should be broken up into multiple votes.
Absolutely. I think when everyone started off, there's sort of uniform agreement that the way that we operate, in the commission form is really antiquated. And since we're the last major city in the nation to have this type of government, it's time to move on, time to move into a new system, something that's more practical and that delivers better basic services. So we all agree on that, and that is fully expected. The elements that are just a little bit more nuanced and innovative are the way that we elect individuals, and the combination of ranked choice, multi-member district, single transferable votes it is quite novel. And we, of course, would be the only city, once again, in the nation to have this type of system. And so our concern is really that if you combine these two things, it really could be one of those ballots that voters just don't comprehend, they don't get, and that they are concerned about. So if we have more options, voters get to choose the things that they like and the things that they don't like, and truly be trusted to make their own informed decision.
We had Charter Commission co-chair Melanie Billing-Young on this program recently, and here's what she had to say about including all the proposed changes in one vote. So why include so many changes in this one proposal?
Because it was always seen as a single proposal, a change of our form of government. If we hadn't included all of those things, the system wouldn't work. It's like a three-legged stool. Everything relies on everything else.
Also, the Portland City Club and the Portland Business Journal, they've come out in support of the current proposal. Does that change anything for you?
We totally respect that everybody has their own opinion. I think we reject the idea that it's an all or nothing choice for voters. I think anybody that says that any one element of this would not work without the other, we just disagree with. And I think that the reality is changing the form of government and then changing the way that we elect people are really clearly different things. I don't think anyone can disagree on that. In fact, the city itself in 2020 ruled in absolute agreement with us. A citizen petition was filed that was practically the exact same thing that the Charter Commission referred recently, and the city rejected it under the exact same grounds, saying the way you elect people is one thing, and the way that the form of government looks and operates is another. So we just simply have a difference of opinion. And that is why we are challenging this and asking the courts to give voters more choice. And it is just a difference of opinion. We think voters can be trusted to make up their mind with an informed decision.
Let's talk about the move to ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting allows people to rank their candidate preferences rather than only choosing one candidate. So advocates of ranked choice voting say that this leads to better representation because it will elect the candidate with the most broad appeal to voters. So what's the problem with ranked choice voting?
Well, there's no problem with ranked choice voting at all. And I think voters should certainly make up their minds about it, and it should be presented the opportunity to do so. The difference here is that this would be the first in the nation. Ranked choice voting combined with what is known as multi-member districts. And the last city to have this was in Baltimore, and they rejected this system in 2002. They actually overturned this form of multi-district representation by a 2-to-1 margin because they viewed the dysfunction it created by having multiple representatives from a single district to be something that was causing their city a lot of problems. And so it's not necessarily that ranked choice voting is bad at all. This is not ranked choice voting like we would know anywhere else in the country. So it is truly different. And I actually, this is an opinion of mine, think that ranked choice voting does deliver some of those results that are being proposed. The combination of the two is, again, never before done in this country. So when people say it will absolutely deliver something, you should ask, any voter should ask, well, show me the evidence of that. And I think that since we don't have any evidence base in terms of other major American cities that have this type of ranked choice voting combined with multi-district representation, that they should have an informed conversation about whether that is the results that will be produced.
On a practical matter, if this fails, we may have to wait another 10 years for the next charter review. So what's the alternative?
Well, at any point in time, first, we always have the option to change our charter. And so I think it is important to know that this is not an all or nothing, and this is the last chance to ever reform charter. With that said, it is critical that we get the best charter reform proposals on the ballot. And getting rid of this system is existential to the business community. We completely agree that this system of government needs to be changed. It doesn't work for really anyone. And I think it is important that we prioritize getting this on the ballot in the right way in November. And if that's not possible, then we need to reconstitute, reform, and recommit to improving the way that our system of government works. And if that's in May or next November, let's not just look at this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and do it right.
Andrew, we've got about a minute left, and I want to talk about Portland business, especially downtown business. Are we coming back from everything that we've been through over the last couple of years?
Yeah, we are seeing a significant rebound. That's in jobs, that's in employment. We're seeing a lot of activity, leasing activity. We're seeing our office core is actually starting to stage a bit of a comeback here. We're seeing visitor traffic increase in our downtown. We're seeing the things that make us so special, the events and the broad-based appeal of our really wonderful city starting to revitalize. And I think that was obviously an enormous challenge related to the pandemic, and the way that people are working now is completely different. So we're still dealing with that and recalibrating. So Portland is certainly staging its comeback, and we're all experiencing it. We're all seeing it. We're still challenged, but the brighter days are ahead, and we're very optimistic, very bullish on the conditions of the economy here in our beautiful city.
Andrew Hone, thank you for joining me on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thanks so much for having me.